Welcome back to another In My Opinion by ColdFire Productions. I'm Ben.
And I'm Abe.
And here's our opinion. Hunter x Hunter reviews are terrible.
If you'll even call them reviews, I'd just call them analyses and lip service.
So the reason we think that the reviews are terrible is because it's not doing the job that a review is supposed to do.
So, in a sense, a review is, in a sense, a persuasive argument. You are trying to convince someone why something is the way it is. For instance, a persuasion. You're persuading me why this is good. Reviews fall under the evaluation argument of persuasion, where you take something, you have a claim, for instance, Hunter x Hunter is a good show, and you set criteria about it. It is a good show because 1, it has good characters, 2, it has a good
setting, it has a good plot or a good setting, something like that.
And 3, it is deconstruction. Okay? So then after you have those 3 criteria, you would go a bit deeper, and you would say it has good characters because and then you would establish a criteria of what good characters are. Like, good characters are, let's say, complex, fascinating, and empathetic, okay? And then you would have to explain why Hunter x Hunter meets that criteria. So, and then you just keep going with reasoning and using sources to back up your criteria, and then that would eventually back up your claim.
So the entire point of a review is to take parts of the show and figure out whether or not the show meets the criteria that you have already established.
Mm-hmm. So, but the problem with these reviews is that they don't have reasoning to back up their criteria. They don't have criteria almost at all. You just get analyses pointing out connections within the story, like Gon's morality or the characters and how they act and their flaws and personalities and a bunch of details that get connected under the surface, but never once do we get a justified reason, or I won't say never, but rarely do we get a justified reason why that makes a good story. For instance, one of the biggest claims I hear about Hunter x Hunter and why it's good is that it is different. But
it's more than a shonen.
Right, it's a deconstruction or whatever. But when does that connect to why it's good? You have to provide evidence and reasoning and logic why.
Yeah, why is it that being more than a shonen suddenly makes it the best show?
Exactly. You just need to set that criteria and see and give us the proof of why it meets that criteria. For instance, you can say that in cooking, a dish was prepared using a method that is very unique and very different. The dish is different, you guys. But
does it taste good?
Is the dish good? What about the method of preparation makes a dish good? You can have a pretty safe method and the dish can be terrible. You can have a pretty never before seen thing
and it can still be just as terrible.
So the point is that you need to give me proof as to why
this method works
and why this method and why these criteria that you're setting are relevant to Hunter x Hunter. And this extends to a lot of other reviews that I can see, like for movies, shows, and anime. They all kind of feel like just talking about the show and, in a sense, talking to an audience that already agrees with them, so we don't second guess whether or not it's a good argument. We're just like, oh wow, I agree, therefore I am pleased with this review, this critique, this is proper. I think
this. I think one of the issues when it comes to any form of evaluation or a review of a piece of entertainment is that they say that the reason it's good is that it's different. But the problem is that just because something is different doesn't mean that it's better than something else.
Right.
And it's kind of like if you see a painting.
Right. I was talking about that with the cooking.
So another problem that I see when it comes to quote unquote reviews of Hunter x Hunter, and
Or
something
Hunter. We have to stay.
sorry, yeah,
we have to-
of Hunter x Hunter, is that I constantly hear reviewers saying that Togashi, the creator of Hunter x Hunter, is a genius, and the reviewers always seem
to assume
the
intention.
they always seem to know what the author or the creator was wanting to make out of that.
Oh, this scene seems boring. Well, it was intentional. It's intentional. It's supposed to be that way, therefore it's good.
And quite frankly, I don't think that's fair. Because if I say, like, I'm a guy that, is making a clay pot and it's a disaster, do I simply need to say, hey, I meant for it to be a mess like this? Does it suddenly become the best clay pot in the entire world?
No, it's still a mess.
Yeah, it's still a mess. So just because, Hunter x Hunter has these mediocre episodes, like some examples are the
We
beginning...
have to justify that it's intentionally mediocre to lull you in with a false sense of security, as I hear so many times.
Yeah, one example that I
The
have...
introduction of Hunter x Hunter.
One example that I have is from MathWiz, and there was a part in one of his videos in where he is trying to justify the scene in Hunter x Hunter in where the tunnel run, and where they're just running through this long dark tunnel. Quite frankly, it's boring, it's uninteresting, it doesn't do anything for the characters.
If you want my reasoning behind that, it's because the pacing is slow and little happens with the characters. They don't do much, and there's a lot of talking, which is slow.
Unnecessary talking.
Yeah, show don't tell. They're telling and showing, so that's my reasoning. I can go
but the
longer,
thing,
but
yeah, but the problem is that he tries to justify it saying, yeah, it's boring, but it's supposed to be. And so suddenly, because the tunnel run is supposed to be boring, because we're supposed to be, bored out of our skulls, then suddenly it becomes an artistic masterpiece. And
I would say that this kind of mindset is prevalent. You mentioned MathWiz, but I would also bring up Alec Skandar, I believe is the name.
Yeah, Alexander.
I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong.
And would you also say Super Eye Patch Wolf?
I would say Super Eye Patch Wolf, his why you should watch Hunter x Hunter. I won't say he doesn't assume author intention as much, but it still falls under the same claim of analysis not without criteria.
Mm-hmm. So overall, the main point that we're trying to give through this opinion is that just because something is different does not make it good.
My main point would be, it's not that we don't like reviews of Hunter x Hunter. Ben says that he doesn't like Hunter x Hunter, but I have mixed feelings. I like multiple aspects of it. But if you're going to write a review on it, take the time and actually write a proper review. There are reasons why we learned in school to cite sources. One of the biggest things I am astonished at why we never see any sources at all. It just boggles my mind. It seems like people just don't want to do that. It's kind of like taking the easy way out, if you ask me.
In fact, let us know if you do find a Hunter x Hunter review that does cite
or
their sources.
any anime review that cites sources. I used to watch a ton of reviews of movies and shows, and I was so fascinated. But looking at it now, I can only find a handful that actually properly evaluate things. Like a big one now that I couldn't even get past was Schaeferillis Productions. He just describes the show or movie and expects you to agree with him. And most of the time we do agree with him, so we don't question it.
Yeah. So don't believe that just because they are analyzing details that suddenly you have to believe that something is the best thing in the world. And whenever someone says that this guy is a genius, be extremely skeptical, because there is no way that
Prove to me why he's a genius. Is his IQ over 125?
Yeah, you can never truly know what an artist's intention is unless he flat out said it. So until we see, again, proof, that this guy intended for something to be this way, you can't assume anything.
So one thing I would say is that there's a really easy way to fix this problem.
What's that?
Just call it an analyses.
Yeah.
The problem is that the main issue is that people want to, in a sense, feel justified about the things they watch.
By saying it's a genius.
By saying it's great, or why it's a masterpiece, or why this is perfect.
The magnum
perfection.
opus.
Yeah, and things very clickbaity titles. That's another thing. But the point is that you don't have to treat it like it's an evaluation. Just treat it like it's an analysis.
Treat it for what it
is. You're
not
just
more or less.
Mm-hmm. Just be honest, in a sense.
Yeah, just be honest. Take a look at it and see what is it really. Not what it could be, what is it now?
Mm-hmm.
And that's our opinion. Just don't be fooled by intention, by analyses that pretend to be evaluation, and always stay skeptical.
Yeah, just ask why.
Yeah,
like,
just ask
why
why.
is this good?
So that's our opinion. We will see you guys next time.
All right, see ya.
Bye.